Hello fellow wood chopperoos, and welcome back. This is the second half to the project we've been building, the pinball coffee table. Now in the first episode we taught you how to make the legs, and on this one we're going to put it all together and wrap it up. So before we use any more power tools, let's take some advice from Safety Dan.
Yeah, make sure you wear these and these.
Come on, serious?
Hey man, check this out. Look what I found.
Hey, that's my woodcraft apron.
Yeah, but it's awesome. Look at all the pockets in it.
Pockets? What do you need pockets for? I mean, you don't own one single tool in this whole shop.
It's not for tools, it's for beers.
Well, I hope you enjoy this episode. You know, Woodcraft is probably going to sue us over this.
No, it's okay. I know people.
So I'm going to glue up what's going to be the bottom shelf, and it's going to be 3 pieces. It's going to be actually too large. I'll cut it down to the final dimensions when it's all dried up. But I like to glue the boards in phases. I don't do a glue up all at once. So I already have the first 2 boards that were in the clamps, and they're dry and flat. And now I'll put the third one on. I like to do this because I have an easier time keeping all the boards flat and consistent one at a time versus trying to do 3 or sometimes 4. The alignment can get kind of difficult. I used the joiner too to make sure that all the boards were flat and square, so I get a nice good glue up on this. And while this is drying, I'm going to start making the aprons. The aprons here, well, they were nothing more than just a butt joint. And I attached them together with some glue and a couple of screws going into it. Now the apron will sit into the notch that we made on the leg. Now the bottom shelf, the one that's glued up and in the clamps, well, I'm going to cut that down, and the size for it is going to be the size of the apron in width and length, because the depth of this notch here is the same depth that I made for the top for the aprons. Okay, so let me go cut my shelf to size, and we'll see about trying to dry fit some of this together. I'm ready to dry fit my pieces together. So I have the legs, the bottom shelf, and the apron assembly there. So let's just see how it goes together. Okay, not too bad. I'm going to label each of the corners. So like A, B, C, D, and I'm going to label the apron, the leg, and the corner of the shelf. That way I get all the same pieces fitting back the same way. I'm thinking too that on the bottom side here, I might put a pocket screw going straight through to this corner into the leg. And then of course up here on top, I'm going to put some screws in as well. Looking awesome. It's going together just great. And these joints, man, they look great. Nice tight fits. Okay, now I'm going to turn the whole thing over, and I'm going to put those supports underneath the shelf. Even though this is really tight, I think those extra little cleats going around the bottom of it is really going to dress it up. I have the coffee table upside down, and now I need to measure for in here for what's going to be my little support. Now, it's kind of tough to get a tape measure in there, especially way deep in the corner. Hopefully, if you made these a nice square cut, yes, you can measure from the outside edge. But I want to get down in there deep, so I have one of these old folding rulers, and at the other end of it, it has an extension arm that comes out. And what I would do is put the one corner in and then extend the arm out. There's numbers on the front side that I would add to it, and then that's my total measurement. From there, I got some stock that I ripped down. I mitered the ends. I can put that in there. And I've already pre-drilled a couple of holes. I put a couple of screws in. I'll now do the same thing to the remaining 3 pieces. Okay, I'm coming down to the last piece here, and I'm having a little bit of trouble. When I want to put this mitered end in, well, because the actual miter joint is housed inside the leg, it's not making it possible for me to slide this in. So I kind of had to cheat a little bit. What I did was I clipped the corner of that miter. So now I can just barely squeak it past and in. Now it leaves a little gap from the bottom side, but hey, who's going to see that unless they flip it over? And from the outside here, well, it looks just great. So I'm going to screw this down and call that part done. Here's where I'm at. The table, well, that's pretty much built and done. And I have to work on the top now. Now the top is made out of a 2x10, a 2x12, another 2x10. And I did run these through my surface planer to get them all flat and ran them through the joiner so I could get a nice clean fit with no gaps. Now, obviously, this is not the size of what the pinball playing field is. I'm going to bring that up, place it on here, center it, trace around it, and then cut that excess material off. But first, I have to put this into my table saw sled and trim up the ends, get them nice and square. As I mentioned before, after I got these ends squared up, I put the pinball playing field on and I pencil traced around it. And I'm going to try and cut it just a fuzz big so it doesn't fight me too much dropping it in. Now you'll notice I have some blue tape here and not on this part of it. That's because I'm going to be cutting across the grain, and the tape hopefully will cut down on some of that splintering we get with the wood. But I didn't bother to do it going with the grain. I think it's going to cut pretty clean. Now, the way I could do this is with a jigsaw, but I'm going to cut most of it with my circular saw. And so I could set, again, a fence on this to help guide me along the edges, but I've just decided to try and freehand it. So after that, then I will need the jigsaw, because the jigsaw will get into the corners, because I'm going to have to stop a little shy on it. All right, here I go. Wish me luck. That's one down, 3 to go. Made all 4 cuts. Now I just got to do these corners. Again, I'm going to use the jigsaw, and you'll notice I moved my workbenches in a little. This way I still have support underneath the piece that's going to be removed. If I had the sawhorses on the end, it would want to fall and probably crack one of those corners. So this makes it nice and easy. Okay, the moment to see if I did it right. Awesome. Now, I've got to clean up the corners a little bit because the circular saw blade was wider than the blade on the jigsaw, so I can see a small step in the difference there, but that's nothing a little file or rasp can't fix, and then we'll test the fit of the playing field. Well, I did a test fit, and it was a hair snug, which I'd rather have that than loose. So I took a hand plane to the inside, shaved off a little, and I'm going to try my second fit now. Well, I'm real close. I think a little bit more shaving, and then I'll be good to go. Then I'll move on to the next step, which is probably going to try and fit the top, the play field, and I got to put some cleats to support all this on the inside of the table. So stay tuned. Here's an update where I'm at. I decided to attach the top to the apron by the use of some pocket holes. But I couldn't get the pocket hole jig and the drill in here at the same time. So what I wound up doing was taking the whole apron unit off, drilling the holes on the bench, and then reassembling it. Then I put the top on, and I made sure too to elongate the holes here. Because this is solid wood, it is going to expand and contract a little. So with the elongated holes, that should allow the screw to flex back and forth. So the top is attached, and what I did was I put these little cleats in here too. This is going to be what the playing field will rest on. And I have it so the playing field is going to sit down 3/16 of an inch, because there still has to be a piece of glass that goes on top. So let's see how that playing field fits. It might be a little snug. Just to make sure that this stays in place, I'm probably going to run a few screws through the playing field here into the top. And the last thing I still have to do is, the piece of glass is actually smaller than what this opening is. So what I'm going to wind up doing is putting a thin piece of trim all the way around this, so the glass should sit right in it. Let's see how I do with that. Now this trim, I ripped down on the table saw and planed it to the thickness that I needed. I also measured the opening, measured the glass, and that determined the width. Now what I want to do is, I want to put the trim all the way around here. Now when cutting miters on this trim, especially when it's that small and that thin, well, it can be dangerous on the miter saw. It wants to break or splinter the wood apart versus a nice clean cut. So the method I like to use to cut this small trim is, I'll use an old handheld miter box, or you could even get one of those plastic or wooden ones at the big box store. My old miter box does a really nice job at doing this trim. I like the cuts that these miter box does, and I feel it's a lot more safe. Now, what happens if I cut my piece and it's just a hair too big? Well, it's difficult to put it back into that miter saw. But let me show you another trick. So to sneak up on this miter for a good fit, all you need is a block plane and a mitered shooting board. The miter shooting board is pretty simple. It's just a couple of scrap pieces of wood already cut at 45 degrees. And then I glue and screwed it to another scrap piece of wood here. So what I'll do is, to give you an idea, I'm going to, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to put a little pencil mark on the end there, because I'm going to show you how much I can take off with this shooting board, actually sneak up on that. And then with the block plane, I'm going to keep it on its side, and I stick the trim out just past the edge here, just a smidge. And hold that in place. And then with my block plane, I can quickly trim it up. And you can see that the pencil line is gone, and I'm still maintaining a perfect 45-degree angle trim. The trim is cut, and it's fit to perfection. Now, I'm not going to go and nail or glue this trim in at this point because I still haven't received the glass from the actual customer, and I thought it would be easier for me to take the trim out, maybe use a block plane or something on it if I had to sneak up on the fit. But in the meantime, I did go ahead and sand the whole thing, and I put 7 layers of a polyurethane on it. Overall, I think this coffee table looks pretty good, and I'm going to call this project done. Well, there you are, the completion of the Pinball coffee table. As you can see, it was a little bit more involved than it looked, but in the end, the customer loved it. Now, Safety, last week you said I could dance twice as long.
Well, yeah, you can. You know what? Let me go cue the music, and then I'll get a really good angle on the camera for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Great. Because I've been practicing some new dance moves, too.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
It's time for me to dance. How am I doing?
You're doing great, Chad.
Watch this, watch this. I've been practicing cartwheels.
No.
No, wait a second. Let me do that again.
Oh, that's nice.
Maybe we could just edit that out or something.
Uh-huh.